Every single month, you're writing a check you didn't agree to. Electricity, water, gas. The average American retiree on a fixed income is handing over $150 to $300 every month just to keep the lights on and the water running. Do the math over 10 years. That's $18,000 to $36,000 gone. Not to a mortgage, not to savings, just gone to a utility company that raises its rates whenever it wants without asking your permission. But here's what nobody's talking about. The real problem isn't the money. It's what happens when that system fails you at 2 a.m. on a winter night, and you're alone, and the power's out, and your phone is dying, and there is no one coming. Today, we're going to cut through every promise and every piece of marketing language around off-grid living and answer 3 questions that actually matter. Does off-grid really work the way they say it does? What does it actually protect you from? And what could cost you everything if you get it wrong? Before we go any further, Tesla has not officially released or confirmed any off-grid home system at the time of this video. Do not send money to anyone claiming to sell you this. This video exists for one reason only, so you can make a smart decision before anyone asks you to sign anything. What off-grid sounds like. Let's start with why this idea grabbed you in the first place, because it should have. The pitch is simple. Solar panels on your roof collect sunlight during the day. That energy flows into a battery pack, something like a Tesla Powerwall, roughly 13.5 kilowatt-hours of stored capacity. At night or on cloudy days, you pull from that battery. You also collect rainwater through an integrated filtration system that runs it through sediment filters, activated carbon, and UV sterilization before it ever touches your tap. The output meets EPA standards for residential use. No electric bill, no water bill, no utility company with your name in their database. And if you're 68 years old, living on $1,900 a month from Social Security, that's not just a financial upgrade, that's a completely different relationship with the world around you. Think about what that actually means in your daily life. You wake up in the morning, your life's work, your coffee maker runs. You FaceTime your daughter without worrying whether the bill got paid. You watch the news about rolling blackouts in your state, and you feel something most of your neighbors don't, calm, because you're not on the grid they're losing. That feeling has a name. It's called not being left behind. But here's what I need you to understand right now. That feeling is real, and it's possible. What I'm about to show you is why the path to it is more complicated than any YouTube thumbnail has ever told you. How off-grid actually works. Here's what the marketing materials leave out of the brochure. Solar panels generate electricity only when the sun is shining. That sounds obvious, but the real-world implications are something most people don't fully think through until they're living with the system. If you're in Arizona or Southern California, you're looking at 300+ sunny days a year. A 6-kilowatt rooftop system in those conditions can generate 24 to 30 kilowatt-hours on a good day, far more than a compact home consumes. Your battery stays full. Life is good. But if you're in the Pacific Northwest or New England or anywhere that sees real winters, your solar system is working at 40 to 60% of its rated capacity for months at a time. 3 consecutive overcast days in January and your battery reserves start looking thin. Now add this. A space heater running 4 hours a day pulls roughly 6 kilowatt-hours. A portable air conditioning unit, another 4 to 6 kilowatt-hours. An electric blanket, a medical CPAP machine, a television running 6 hours. It adds up faster than you'd think. Here's the scenario nobody walks you through. It's February. You're in Tennessee. There's been 4 days of heavy cloud cover and rain. Your 13.5 kilowatt-hour battery started the week at 80%. By day 2, you're at 40. By day 4, you're making choices. Do you run the heat or charge the phone?
That's not a failure of the technology. That's the technology working exactly as designed. The failure is the gap between what you were promised and what you were prepared for. And the battery itself, this is critical. Lithium batteries degrade. It's not a defect, it's physics. After 10 years of daily charge and discharge cycles, independent testing of residential battery systems shows capacity retention between 70 and 80% of the original rating. That means in year 11, a system that once held 13.5 kilowatt-hours might hold 10, and the replacement cost for a modern high-capacity battery pack runs between $8,000 and $12,000. That number doesn't appear in the headline price of any tiny home system you've ever seen. The question you need to ask before you commit to any off-grid setup is not, how does this work when everything goes right? The question is, what happens when it doesn't, and do I have a plan?
Real-life scenario. Let me walk you through what this actually feels like. Not on a perfect day, but on a normal one. You wake up just after sunrise. It's quiet. The system is working. The lights turn on, the coffee maker runs. Everything feels exactly the way it's supposed to. By late morning, the sky hasn't cleared. It's one of those gray days where the sun never really shows up. You don't think much of it, not yet. Around 2 p.m., you check the battery level. Not because you have to, but because you want to be sure. It's lower than you expected. Still safe, still fine, but lower. By evening, nothing has gone wrong, and that's the important part. Nothing is broken. The system is doing exactly what it was designed to do. But now you're making small decisions you didn't think about before. Do you turn on the heater for another hour or wait? Do you run the washing machine tonight or tomorrow? Do you charge everything now or spread it out? These aren't emergencies, not even close, but they're decisions. And over time, those small decisions start to change the way you live inside your own home. Not because the system failed you, but because now you're part of the system.
The costs nobody puts in the headline. Let's talk money. Actual money, not the $5,983 base price, not the $249 a month financing number, the full picture. Because if you're living on a fixed income, surprises aren't inconvenient, they're dangerous. Year 1 through year 5, an off-grid system on a compact home is genuinely impressive. Assuming you own your land or have a stable lease, your monthly out-of-pocket might look like this. Insurance at $70 to $100 per month, internet via Starlink at $100 to $120, and maybe $30 in supplemental grid backup during heavy weather. Call it $200 to $250 total monthly. Compare that to $1,200 per month rent, and it looks extraordinary. But year 6 is when the math quietly changes. Solar panels need cleaning. Dust, bird droppings, pollen from surrounding trees, any accumulation reduces efficiency by 20 to 30%. Professional panel cleaning runs $150 to $300 per visit, twice a year. That's $300 to $600 annually for a task most 75-year-olds shouldn't be doing on a roof themselves. Inverters, the component that converts DC power into usable AC electricity, have a typical lifespan of 8 to 12 years. Replacement costs run $1,500 to $3,000, depending on the system. The rainwater filtration system requires filter replacements every 6 to 12 months. Sediment filters, carbon filters, UV lamp replacement, budget $200 to $400 per year. And then there's the battery. If you're at year 10 and you haven't set aside $800 to $1,000 per year in a maintenance fund, you could be facing an $11,000 decision with no runway. Not because the system failed you, because the math always worked this way. No one just explained it clearly enough at the beginning. Here's the emotional truth beneath all of this. The whole reason you're looking at off-grid living is because you're tired of being dependent on something you can't control. But if you go in underprepared, you don't escape dependency, you just change what you're dependent on.
Instead of a utility company, you're dependent on a battery manufacturer's warranty terms, a solar service technician in your county, and whether your maintenance fund is still intact when the system needs attention. That's not a reason to walk away. That's a reason to go in with your eyes open.
The decision moment.
At some point, this stops being a system and becomes a decision. Not on day one, not even in the first few years. Everything works, the numbers make sense, you feel like you made the right call. But then you reach a moment most people don't think about when they're watching videos like this. You're in year 9, maybe year 10. The battery isn't holding what it used to. You've noticed it, slowly, quietly, nothing dramatic, just less margin than before. And now you know what's coming next. You're looking at a replacement, $8,000, maybe $10,000. And the question in front of you isn't technical anymore. It's simple. Do you spend that money to stay off the system, or do you reconnect to the system you were trying to leave? There's no right answer here, because this isn't about solar panels or batteries. It's about what matters more to you at that point in your life, predictability or independence. And that's a decision no one else can make for you.
Does off-grid actually keep you from being left behind? Now we get to the real question, the one that matters more than any spec sheet. In February 2021, a winter storm hit Texas. The grid failed. Millions of people lost power for days. Temperatures dropped to single digits. People died, not from the storm, but from being left without heat, without light, without the ability to call for help. The average age of those most affected was over 65. If you had been in a properly configured off-grid home during that storm, here's what your experience looks like. Your lights are on. Your heat is running on battery-backed radiant floor systems. Your phone is charged. You can call your children, your doctor, your neighbor down the road who doesn't have power. You are not waiting for a utility company to restore service. You are not the person your family is trying to reach and can't get through to. That is not a small thing. That is the entire promise of off-grid, and in that specific scenario, it delivers completely. But I want to be honest with you about something, and this is the part that the promotional videos always skip. What happens when the off-grid system itself fails? A traditional home with grid power has a simple repair path. Power's out? Call the utility company. That's their job. It's included in your bill, and there's a crew dispatched within hours. But if your solar inverter fails at 6 p.m. on a Sunday, and you're in a rural county with one certified technician who's booked through next Thursday, you're in the dark. And unlike a utility company, there's no emergency hotline. There's a warranty number, a chatbot, and a 3 to 5 business day response window. Here's another layer nobody talks about. These systems are increasingly managed through smartphone apps. You adjust power settings through an interface. The system sends alerts through a notification system. Updates are pushed automatically. For many people over 70, this is genuinely difficult, not because they're not smart, but because interfaces change, apps update, and the person who set everything up 3 years ago isn't coming back to re-explain it. New technology designed to give you independence can, if it's not designed with you specifically in mind, quietly create a new kind of dependency, one that's harder to navigate than a utility bill, because at least you understand how to pay a bill. Off-grid technology keeps you independent from the old system, but it can pull you into a new one. The question is whether you can manage that new system or whether you need someone else to manage it for you.
There's a question most people don't say out loud. Not when they're watching videos like this. Not when they're talking to their family. Not even when they're making the decision. It usually shows up later, quietly, and it sounds like this. What happens if I choose this, and a few years from now, I can't manage it anymore? Not because the system failed, but because something changed with me. Maybe your hands aren't as steady as they used to be. Maybe climbing up to check a panel isn't something you feel comfortable doing anymore. Maybe the app updates, and suddenly the screen doesn't look familiar. The settings are different. The notifications don't make sense. And now the system that once felt simple feels like something you have to keep up with. Not every day, but often enough that you notice it. Here's the part that matters. Off-grid living assumes something most people don't think about, that the version of you making the decision today will be the same version of you living with it 5 or 10 years from now. But that's not always how life works. You might be slower. You might need more help. You might just want things to be simpler. And when that happens, the question isn't whether off-grid is good or bad. The question becomes, does this system still work for you, or do you now have to work for it? Because independence isn't just about not relying on a company. It's about not being placed in a position where you need to keep up with something that no longer fits your life. And that's the part no brochure ever explains.
Who should and who should not choose off-grid? Let me be direct with you, because you've watched this far and you deserve a straight answer. Off-grid living on a compact solar-powered home makes strong practical sense if you are living alone or with one other person, your monthly energy consumption is low, you're located in a region with reliable sun exposure for at least 200 days per year, and you have a maintenance reserve of at least $5,000 to $8,000 set aside before you move in, not for emergencies, just for the predictable costs over the first decade. If you're comfortable learning a new interface, or you have a family member or trusted neighbor who can help when the app behaves unexpectedly, the system can genuinely deliver on its promise. It makes significantly higher risk sense if you're managing a health condition that requires consistent power, a CPAP, a nebulizer, a refrigerated medication. Those systems cannot tolerate a 3-day outage, even occasionally. If you have limited mobility and the thought of coordinating a technician visit is already stressful, the maintenance reality of an off-grid system will compound that stress over time. And if your monthly income after essential expenses leaves less than $200 in discretionary cash, a surprise $3,000 repair bill doesn't just hurt, it can unravel everything else you've built. This is not a reason to give up on the idea. This is information you needed before anyone handed you a contract. The goal was never to scare you away from off-grid living. The goal is to make sure that if you choose it because it actually fits your life, not because a YouTube thumbnail with a $ made it sound like the answer to everything.
Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Off-grid is not about living without anyone. It's about understanding clearly, with real numbers, not marketing language, what you're dependent on, and making sure that dependency is something you can manage. When it's set up right, for the right person, in the right place, it can give you something most retirement options can't, the ability to stay in your own space, on your own terms, even when the grid around you goes dark. But when it's misunderstood, it can quietly become the very thing you were trying to escape, a system that controls you instead of serving you. That $5,983 starting price you've seen, it may be real as a starting point, but what matters is the difference between a headline and a life plan. And no one should make a decision this big based on a thumbnail. This channel isn't here to sell you anything. It's here to make sure you understand what you're getting into before you get into it. If this video helped you think more clearly, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm that people over 60 deserve real information, not hype. And if you know someone looking into tiny homes, share this with them, not to talk them out of it, but to help them go in with their eyes open. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next video breaks down the Tesla Model 2, real monthly costs, real-world driving, and one safety feature that matters if you're driving alone. Before you go, I need something from you. Comment "Ready" if you're seriously considering off-grid living. I'll break down your state next. Comment "Not yet" if one question is holding you back. Your question may help thousands of others.
You've worked your whole life to get here. You deserve to understand your options before you commit to any of them. I'll see you in the next one.